Thank you so much for joining us today, Councilmember Padilla. I know you got a very busy schedule, a lot going on, so we greatly appreciate you being here and joining us today to talk about all of this, especially in Chula Vista. Any updates you have going on there at Cannabis? I know there's a lot of people that are really curious what's going on there with the process. It's been, I think, over 2 years now that we've had the ordinance in Chula Vista, and we haven't had any shops open or any licenses granted. So, could you just give us a quick update on what's going on in Chula Vista? Anything we can look forward to?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you guys taking some time as well. And I'm as frustrated as anyone, I think, who's been a proponent of opening up a regulated industry in our city, and I think the benefits that clearly come with that. And we had a very open and engaged public process around the policy question and around creating our own ordinance and working with folks in the industry and advocates on all sides and people in the community. So you can imagine that I'm very frustrated at the very slow pace at which we've started to implement this. And you may be aware that recently, in a very public way, I began to question that in a way that brought attention to this. And I will continue to do that until we get it satisfactorily, resolved. But by way of an update, we had about 133 original applications across all categories. We have a 2-tiered review system, which is fairly strict based on the construct of our ordinance. And of course, that doesn't include all of the kind of building inspections and other permits that are required, the state licensing process, which should be happening concurrently with folks at some point. But all of the backgrounds have been completed on all applications now. We are now, with most of those that have moved through into that phase, are dealing with on-site inspections and reviews of proposed tenant improvements, verifying financials and their state approvals. Today actually is the deadline for about 90 plus unrestricted applications that we allowed to re-up now for that. So they are being reviewed in-house. To be candid, I think there were some issues with the system we had in place before, and so they've modified that to do that. So
real quick, so to be clear, so there's gonna be some changes to the process for the second round of applications. Is that correct?
Yes, we're reviewing, at least for now, some of that initial screening and reviewing is taking place in-house as opposed to an outside vendor. There were some issues with the outside vendor that we had to resolve. I'll leave it at that. All of our in-person appeals have been heard and have been dispositioned. And we have 2 written appeals that are pending, and those will be reviewed within the next few weeks. So we're finally beginning, I think, to move to a phase where we're going to have across all categories, citywide, folks who are into the second phase and getting the final reviews and approvals they need so we can issue the appropriate permits for folks. And again, I've been as frustrated as anyone that we went through the process that we did. We recognize on the good side, we want to be thorough. We want to select only the top performers and folks with the right backgrounds, the right capacity to perform appropriately. It is the first time, obviously, this is new for the city to undertake this. There are issues with shutting down illegal operators and dealing with that issue as well. So there's nothing wrong with that, but I do think that in terms of customer service and efficiency, we needed to move a lot more quickly than we have. And I'm pushing very, very hard on that.
Great. Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at as of today.
Yeah.
We'll keep watching that one very closely.
Yeah. Also, yeah. So we, and yeah, thank you very much for that update. I know that's a big thing from kind of everybody in the industry right now is, hey, what's going on in Chula Vista? Where are they at in the process? What's going on? It's frustrated a lot of people. So I really appreciate you giving that update and letting us know what's going on there. So I guess next step in the conversation is going to be just, what do you want to see out of all these businesses when they come online in Chula Vista? We know what some of the unlicensed ones are doing there. What is your vision of cannabis in Chula Vista? I do want to note too that it's the only essential business that's been granted, essential status throughout the state and the county that's not available in a lot of jurisdictions. So I guess how is that playing into your thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to examine that, right? And we need to, once we get going, I mean, but in Chula Vista's case, we have to get past the initial threshold of getting folks up and operating. And then we can defend the fact that for people, it may be essential, and we need to be consistent up and down the state around that. So those have other impacts, even some in the healthcare industry. So I think the vision has always been that we want a robust, lawful market operating in terms of regulating product, being sure that the quality of product that is available to folks from legitimate operators, whether that is all the way from cultivation through every other step, all the way to retail in its many forms, is appropriately regulated, is safe and healthy, and people know the product and the quality of the product they're getting, and that over time, just based on pure market economics, we put some constraints on the illegal market and help to encourage lawful operators to thrive. All of those things have community benefits. That was the debate we had around the whole question. So I think for me, the vision is to see a thriving lawful market that's fairly regulated, that's benefiting everyone, consumers, operators, suppliers, and regulators in our community, and having the desired benefits that the system is supposed to have. Including financial benefits to the city. So that's the vision, and that was the debate. And I think we had a majority of support from our community and constituents for that, and barely a majority from the city council. And I think that we need to continue to move forward. But that's the vision.
Great. Okay. Okay. And then I guess the big thing, just really stopping all of this, is just getting the applications granted and getting those out so people can actually start opening up. Yeah. Is there anything else that is holding up the city at all? Or I mean, it's just pretty much this process, right?
I think it's been the process. I think it's been distraction. It's been a lot of combination of things, right? I mean, certainly there were folks, I think, within the community who objected and didn't agree with the policy call. It was a 3-2 council vote to change the policy. It wasn't unanimous. It's always possible when you're dealing with any bureaucracy that there are inefficiencies there. I'd hate to say that there would have been resistance to that, but there are always folks that have strong opinions about stuff. But at the end of the day, the legislative branch with its elected members gets to make those calls, and the call's been made. And so we just need to move forward and implement what we have designed and adopted. Okay. But I think that's just been it. And I think, you look at just circumstantially, certainly for this year, there's been a lot that's also sort of, put everything on hold and made everyone review and stop and reanalyze stuff. And it may have been some of the COVID-19 crisis. I can personally vouch for how that can completely derail your life for some time. Yeah. Certainly the movement, very righteous and long overdue, around Black Lives Matter and dealing with systemic racism and bias and injustices in our culture, have provided a lot for people to deal with and think about and absorb. And it's easy to get distracted, right? So, but I think that we need to be focused again, and I think those are just the factors that are involved, and we're pushing hard on that.
Great. In the future, are there any changes to your current ordinances you'd like to see? Or I guess, is it just, hey, let's just see how this goes first and then we'll figure it out?
I think it's it's been such a process. It's such a lengthy debate. You might remember that, the long hours of public hearings, the multiple public hearings, the community outreach. I think for me, that, there's always a point. You have to see how what you've designed works first, even if it's for a brief period of time, before you can really look at empirical data and you can start to assess about what can be done better. So I think we've got to get the system that we've adopted and that we're implemented. We need to get people up and running, and then we need to evaluate that before we articulate that right now.
Okay, great. And then last question is, how can we help? I mean, how can we help with anything in Chula Vista? My angle is always, hey, we got elections coming up. Let's make sure we got the best pro-cannabis folks in there. Anything else that we as a cannabis industry can do to help you out?
Well, you've got first, just in a general sense, you're always a great resource and you're helpful in bringing folks who have good competency and experience in the industry and who've done it right. That's always helpful. And that advocacy is important. That education and outreach is important to continue to do that. In Chula Vista specifically, you know, you need to make sure that you have legislators and council members who get it and who understand the broader economics. You know, it's basic economics, right? I mean, you know, why doesn't the mob run Vegas anymore the way they did in the 50s and 60s? That's because legitimate operations came in and changed the dynamic in that market. Now it's corporate America that runs Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and you know, by and large, and that's economics. That's just basic 101. The same needs to happen here. And you need folks that are understanding that industry. I think in the example, we've got a fantastic candidate running in District 4, and who's a friend, Andrea Cardenas, who has worked with the industry in the past and has a good understanding of the dynamics and a lot of other things for someone. She's kind of a bright indication of what the future could be. So it's important to really support folks like her. In a big way. She's in a very, very winnable seat. And you know, that's another conversation we maybe should have. But she's in a very winnable seat, and there's no reason why she should not win that seat with the right kind of support. So that's another example of it. But I think that's how the industry can help.
Great, great. Yeah, and we'll actually be talking to Andrea here in just a few moments too. So, yeah. Okay, those are all the questions I had. I'm sure as we get closer to the election and everything, we'll want to bring you back for more questions and stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Again, you know, appreciate the partnership. I want to continue that partnership. Certainly, I value you guys as a resource in that, and I will continue to reach out, and let's keep the dialogue going as the world kind of starts to somewhat recrank things back up, and we have some work to do in Chula Vista, and you know, let's continue to do that. I'm a partner in that, and we'll keep moving forward. So thanks for the opportunity to come in.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much once again. Yeah, we know you're really busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time.
You bet, Mel. Good to see you.